serve the automotive and architectural glass industries around the world. Customers who buy PPG glass get.
Okay. So now we know, or now we have an idea of how glass is made. So what do we use glass in? We use it in windows and doors primarily. So that's what Chapter 18 is about. And this is important to understand the terminology. You'll use it a lot as architects of what the different parts of the, what they're referring to with the different parts of the door. So the jamb is usually the top or the side. That would be where it's pointing to. You got an interior casing, which would be the trim work. If you look at that door, that's the interior casing. Exterior, would, if it was on the outside of a building, that would be the trim work around the outside. The sash is the framework that actually holds the glass. The sill is at the bottom. An apron would be more trim work, covering up any kind of gaps between the sill and the structure. And the stool would be the similar thing on the inside if you had one. You need to understand different types of windows. Obviously, fixed windows are fixed. They don't move, they don't operate. They're just pieces of glass stuck in the wall forever. Single hung is where one portion of the window goes up or down. It can either be the top or the bottom. Usually it's the bottom. The top portion would be fixed. Double hung is both of them would move. So you can slide the top down and you can slide the bottom up. You could have it in the middle, etc. Sliding is sideways movement. Casement, it moves like a door. It swings out or in, I guess, depending on what you want. This one looks like it swings out. That's part of the projected window category, meaning that it projects out into something. It'll take up space either on the outside or the inside. Awning swings out from the bottom, just like that picture shows. This picture here, these are probably fixed windows, and these little ones, or some of them are awning windows to add for some ventilation. The good thing about an awning window is that you can open it when it's raining, and it obviously will limit the amount of rain that would come inside. Probably not all of it, but if you're in a rainy climate and you don't have air conditioning, that's a good kind of window to have. A hopper opens to the inside, like that. I'm not sure where you would. I've never seen one of those. It seems like an awning would be better. but there may be a reason. Tilt and turn is a window that, I don't know if they have a picture of it, but you would either be able to do this or put it back into place and it would turn out or rotate out. You got skylights, which can either be solid or operable. They call that a roof window if it opens up. Trouble with skylights, you got to make sure you detail them right so they don't leak. And then you've also got glass doors. You got a terrace door, which is where one side works and the other doesn't, swings in or out. French doors where both sides swing in or out, and the sliding obviously slides back and forth. In larger buildings, you'd have a top hinged in-swinging, so that would come into your space, side hinged in-swinging, and a pivoting window like that. And that, in a few slides ago, it talked about those. We talked about tilt and turn. That's the turning part. They don't have a picture of one, but if you had a tilt and turn window, it would either do this and or that. So this is a strip window system. Usually, I mean, in the 80s, they primarily didn't make operable windows in high-rise buildings, but now they're starting to rethink that because more and more people, especially if the climate allows it, want to have some natural ventilation. However, when you do that, you have to consider your air conditioning system because that has a great impact. You know, if Joe down the hall opens his window and all of a sudden all this cold air or hot air is getting sucked out. These are window frames. You can have wood, you can have aluminum, or clad, meaning it would be wood covered with a vinyl or aluminum clad, which the good thing about that is that you don't usually have to paint it. So wood, if you've ever had to repaint a wood window, you know how much paint it is. This is just showing you different types there. Here's details, and you could draw some of these, or any of the details in any of the slides. But what this is showing you, this is an elevation of the window. It's a double hung window, and then these little marks are showing you where they're cutting through so you can see how it's put together. So 3 is at the sill, at the bottom. So here is the outside of the window. It always tilts to the outside so it will drain. And this is an aluminum framing system, and then your glazing is, it's a double glaze system that is put in, and then this little piece is snapped on there to hold it in place. Number 16 would be the side, or the jamb. You can see the detail there. And you're seeing, it's a double hung, so you're seeing, you know, you probably wouldn't see both of those at the same time unless you're right there in the middle, but it's showing you how they overlap. 9 is the middle meeting rail where they come together. The two sides come together. And then 4 is the head, which is the top of the window. That's the detail for that. And there's another 16. That's a cutaway section of an aluminum window. Aluminum's good, but what does metal do? It conducts hot and cold. So if you have an aluminum window on an, I think it'll show in a second, on an icy or in a cold climate, that cold is just going to come right through unless you have a thermal break, which is a piece of rubber that stops the air or the temperature from going across the metal. If you ever have put a metal spoon in a pot while you're cooking, and the handle gets real hot because it conducts the heat. That's just a picture of some commercial grade. You can see some of them are operable, like that one, the ones on the edge, and then you got fixed ones too. You can also have plastic window frames because they don't need painting. Their solid vinyl is very popular now, especially on residences. You can have glass fiber reinforced plastic. You can have steel, and that's mostly for commercial purposes because it's very strong and it permits slender structures, so you can have more glazing and less structure. Muttons is where the glass is divided into small sections within each sash by muttons. So I think those would be muttons up there, and then in the background you can see where there would be muttons. Steel, this is just more details of steel frames. You got hot rolled window frame sections, cutaway of steel. That's a cutaway, so it's like you would draw that vertical section, that's what you would see. And here's a steel window with wired glass. Used to you had to have wired glass for any kind of fire protection because that holds the glass together. Now you can get clear laminated fire glass. But you know, if you ever see this wired glass in old buildings, that's because it's a firewall and it has to have the 20-minute rating so it doesn't crumble before you get out. Here's another detail of looking at single hung aluminum framed window, comparing it to a plastic framed window. This one on the right is the PVC. You can tell because it's thicker, and this is the aluminum. And you can study these details. Again, you got the sill is number 3, the jamb is number 5, the upper jamb is number 4, the head is number 1. So you can see the differences in how they're put together. Impact window frame on overall U values. U values is, you know, its thermal properties. So that's important, especially to the mechanical engineer. You know, you want to make sure you're not letting too much hot or cold in. So you need to understand the U values and what happens when you double glaze clear, single glaze. So you can study that to get an idea of that. And the coefficients of thermal expansion shows how much it's going to expand and contract with the temperature. These are, you can go to any window site, like Pella or Anderson Windows, and they will have all kinds of details. And they will even have a section that architects can log into so that you can detail their specific window. They'll give you the details, and then you just plop it in your drawing. You can't do that for extra credit. But you have to draw the details yourself. But they'll detail them because they want you to put them in correctly, because if they leak, they have to come back, and fix it. And so they want it done right, so they'll give you as much information as you need to do it right. Here they're installing an aluminum-clad wood windows are being installed into a rough opening. And you can see there's a kind of a lip or flange on the outside that's overlapped. That's how they nail it into the frame, and then they'll come around and cover it up with the finish material or the trim. So that's windows. Now we go into doors. Again, doors have all different types that you need to understand what they mean when you're designing. You got the normal swinging door. You got a bifold door, which is like you might see on closets, the kind that's squished together. An accordion, which is like, I hate those, but they're, seems like they're hard to push and pull. Pocket sliding, meaning it goes into the wall so you don't see it when it's open. Bypass means they pass by each other. Surface sliding, there's a rail on the top on the outside of the wall that the door is hung on, and it slides along the surface. And then you got overhead, which is like a garage door, and a coiling door, which rolls up into a little box at the top. And there's more terminology you have to understand, because you'll spec all this when you do your drawings. A flush door is just a solid, flat door with nothing on it except a doorknob. Glass has a pane of glass, or either one or a full. Narrow light is like that, and you see that when you need to. A lot of schools now require you to have some sort of windows in your doors, so that when the administration's walking through the hall, and they can make sure that nothing funny's going on in there. So, you got single panel door, which just has instead of glass, it has a inlaid piece of wood or whatever the material is. Double, 2-panel, 4-panel, 6-panel. That's like your front doors a lot of times. Glass with panels. Louvered doors is for ventilation. If you have like an outdoor room that you just want air to get into, you can have louvered doors. And you can have a storm or a screen door. Steel doors have the same, different names, and you just need to understand what your flush, again, is flat. Vision just has a vision panel. Louvered, vision louvered, glass, full louvered, and narrow light. So hollow steel door frames. A lot of times these will come with the doors already attached, and you just put them in your opening. But this is the especially if you have a masonry wall, you would have these ties that come in, and you would grout that into your masonry. Then you put your frame on top of that. But it's hollow steel because it's hollow, but then you have stiffeners in it. This is just pointing out the different parts of it. And you can, like A is at the bottom, which is down here. It's got an attachment to the floor. B is where the hinge is, which is up here. So you'd have to have some sort of structure there to make sure that it doesn't pull off the frame. C is just for the jamb. And there's anchor clips up at the top. This is like I was saying, it would have that little thing in there that would go into this grout, and that way it would be sealed into that wall. So when you put these kind of doors in masonry walls, it's very hard then to remove them. So you want to make sure you put it in the right spot. Here's a fire door that would automatically shut. It's attached to the alarm system. So and these have to be labeled, and a lot of times you'll need